Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, I am the Frozen Gamer. Welcome to Dads in Gaming, where I interview fellow dads who are not only gamers, but content creators. That content may or may not be gaming related, but every one of these gentlemen are passionate both about video games and being dads. Joining me today for the second Dads in Gaming is yet another very special guest. Even 3 years later, he still dreams of a 70-inch Nintendo Switch Pro to mount to his wall, yet still be able to take on the go. He's the founder of Geeks World Wide, formerly known as Geeks With Wives, Mr. Joe Barhoum.
Man, that was an amazing introduction. Thank you.
How you doing today, Joe?
I'm great. Yeah, can't complain, man. Life is good.
Yeah, you got. Did you say you got some of the crud going around?
I do. It's not that bad, you know. Instead of knocking me out for a day, it's just sort of lingering. But I have no fever. I've been able to work. It's been not that bad. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, mine's fairly mild, but it's definitely, it's mostly just affecting my nose and throat. A little bit messing with my head, but it's not too bad.
And here you are, still doing a podcast.
Yeah, well, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss the opportunity, especially since, like me, you have 3 kids.
It's rough, man, but it'll pay off in the future, I'm sure.
Definitely. So before we get into the regular interview questions, I wanted to find out what you're currently playing.
Oh man, you caught me in an interesting time because I just wrapped up Days Gone on PS4. And that was really good. I definitely wanted to wait for the... Oh yeah, so the game launched with a whole bunch of bugs and I don't remember the details, but I was able to get the game at a good price during Christmas time, and then I fired it up, I think, right around New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And yeah, anyway, it's really good, man. I probably put 60 hours into it. A real slow drip, though. It took me up until about last week.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of nice having more of a slow drip because then you don't get burnt out on the game.
Yeah, and it's an open world game, but it's not so open that you lose track of what you're doing. You know, there's definitely some good stories to follow and whatnot. It was really fun. But right now, I'm on my PC playing Woken, which is, you may have heard of it as Wolsen, because I think people don't know how to pronounce it, although I could be wrong. I call it Woken. But anyhow, this is an action RPG, a lot like Diablo. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm a huge Diablo guy. So for me, this is home sweet home. It's just like, oh man, it's the best thing in the world to play these kind of games, especially when a new one comes out that's pretty different. And I really like what they're doing with this game, so I've been loving the crap out of that. I'm about 20 hours into it, still on my main character pretty much for all those hours. And really, actually very excited because later this month, on the 22nd, I'll be streaming it live on Twitch, Geeks World Wide Twitch, with none other than David Brevik, the man who created Diablo 1 and 2.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Yeah, I need to actually... I've never heard of that, so I'll have to look into that. Well, not that I really need more games to add to my backlog, but...
Well, what are you playing? I want to know.
Well, I just finished up Shin Megami Tensei 4 on 3DS. That one I started, like, probably 2015 or 2016. Probably 2016. And I just put it down for a while because I got stuck, because the map is terrible in that game. But I finally picked it back up and finished it up earlier this week, and I've been playing a bunch of Doom 2 because I got that on the Switch during the sale. It was $1.50. So
yeah, what do you think of that on Switch?
I mean it plays really well. I had never played either of the original Doom games before, and you know, like the only older Doom game I played was Doom 64, and even that I only played a tiny bit. So, definitely the weirdest thing about it is that you can't aim up or down.
Right.
It just kind of like auto aims depending on if you're actually pointing at an enemy that's above or below you.
Right. It's hard to get used to.
Yeah. I mean, the one nice thing about that is that you have insane range on everything. Like shotguns, you can shoot an enemy that's way off in the distance. Of course, they can shoot you too, so but yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I played through the first one first, and that one was really short, and this one's considerably longer. It's like 3 times the length.
Yeah, well, those are classics for a reason, and classics are different than modern games. It's sprites, it's 3D objects and polygons, and you can't aim up and down like you mentioned, and there's no real... I don't think that there's a spread like on the shotgun, right? The bad guys, like, it shoots as far as wide as it shoots, no matter how far away the enemy is, to your point earlier. Yeah, those are classics, man. Sometimes the classics need to just be kept away. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I had messed around with Duke Nukem 3D on Vita when it was one of the free games years ago. And I actually kind of enjoyed it. I mean, those games, I mean, they look terrible, but they have, like, a nice charm to them. And I think the fact that it is sprite-based artwork helps, and of course they all run really smoothly on new hardware, so... I don't know, I've been having fun with it. I do feel like I kind of want to finish up Doom 2 so that I can start up Doom 2016, because I've never played it before. I messed with it a tiny bit on Switch, but I want to actually play the whole game.
Yeah, well, those are fun games. I remember Shadow Warrior? Yeah, Shadow Warrior, which was on the Duke Nukem engine. I think it was also made by 3D Realms. And it's... You're this comical ninja guy. They actually remade it about 7 or 8 years ago, and then a sequel came out probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it's really good, actually. It's a little hard to keep up with, but if you enjoy fast-paced action games, it's really fun.
Yeah, I think I got Shadow Warrior as a free game on Steam at one point. I have that along with the Viscera cleanup detail of that, so they're just kind of like, eventually I'll get to them.
Yeah. I feel you. The backlog grows.
Yeah. I've been trying to tackle more and more of it, but, kids and all that. It's just... Plus, new games never stop coming out.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about all this? Because, like, I was thinking about this the other day. So many platforms now are competing with each other by offering free games. So whether it's the Epic Store or PlayStation Plus service, the Xbox service, now there's an Xbox on PC service, everyone's throwing out these free games, and they all generally seem to be the same games, like Viscera Cleanup Detail, for example. And they tend to be older games, like, let's say 5+ years old. So not so old that you probably played it if you wanted to, but just old enough that, I just never got around to it. So they offer you these free games, but do you really want to play them? I mean, you've got all these other games to play that are recent. I mean, there's the reason you didn't get to those games, right? And now here they are being dangled at your feet as an offering to stay on board of the Xbox Live Gold or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just kind of depends on the game, because there have definitely been times where, I'll come across a game that, in general, I might not necessarily have gotten to it, but most likely it was just because I had so many other games that I just kind of had to say no. But then, like some of those games I found actually have been really, really great games that I was pleasantly surprised by.
I see, you're nicer than me. To me, I just don't want to play them. But I'm a weird dude, I guess. I don't know.
No, I mean, I understand that, and especially when you already have plenty of games. It's just, like I said, it depends on what the game is, and sometimes I am interested in playing them, but, like, as an example, Axiom Verge is a game that, came out on PlayStation, I think it was, like, 2015, and I had just been kind of waiting for a Nintendo version, and then it came out Switch, but it was during a time when I had already bought so many games that year, and I just decided to hold off on getting it. And so I did end up eventually buying a hard copy for Switch. What was that? End of 2018, yeah. And eventually, then ended up playing all the way through it last year and really enjoyed it. So, I don't know. But anyway, let's get into the actual interview portion of this whole thing.
Hit me.
All right, so as mentioned before, you're the founder of Geeks World Wide. And for those people who are not already familiar with the site, can you tell me about it?
Yeah, for sure. So we started out really just covering video games, which is why I'm here, right? Because I'm a video game guy myself. But as we added more and more people to our team, we started to get more open to different topics. And so now, long story short, we're actually coming up on 10 years. But in the last 10 years, we've broadened our coverage. So we definitely do video games. We still cover technology. But our primary content actually comes in for comic books and then any TV or movies that are related to comic books. And one of the cool things about what we do now that's different from before is it's always been user-generated content by our community. We always want to give people a voice. It's a big part of what we do. It's like, hey, feel empowered, write a review, tell us what you think about a game or a comic, and we'll put it on the site. As long as it's not vulgar, no problem. But now we've actually, just over the years, we've actually got some sources now, and we're posting exclusive content and breaking news on mostly around TV and movie comic book stuff. So something about the new Batman movie or the new Spider-Man movie that's coming out. Don't ask me the details, but we get the scoops, we post them, and we're adding more and more people to our community every day because they come to us because of that, and then they stick around for the comics and the games and all the traditional content we've been covering for years.
Well, as a side note related to that, the scoop that you came up with, or that you guys released about the new Batman game that's supposed to be coming out. Obviously, I don't want you to say anything that would reveal sources or anything like that, but I'm just kind of curious about what you think about the rumor. I mean, do you think it's legitimately reliable?
Yeah, I think it's pretty reliable. There's actually a confirmation I read today from another site that supported what we had said and gave a little more detail on top of it. And I don't know if it's the same source or not. I actually don't know who the source is on the information that we got. Actually, it's kind of funny. I was in the back end of our site doing some work, and I saw that it was about to go live, 2 minutes from going live with this breaking news. And I was like, holy crap, this is super exciting. I was just like anybody else, but I guess 2 minutes ahead of everyone. And I just immediately grabbed my phone and started recording a video and put it on YouTube and Instagram, and it took off a bit. And that's why I know about it. That's all I know about it is precisely what was written in the article. But I was really excited about it myself because I love those games. And if we're going to have something similar but not exactly the same, I think we're due for that because we had 4 Arkham games and on multiple platforms and consoles. And it's just time for something a little bit different, but still embraces what people enjoyed with the old ones.
Sounds great. I don't suppose you have any information as to whether or not it would be coming to Switch, do you?
I don't, okay. Sorry. I'm sure something will, though. I mean, how do you ignore the Switch?
Yeah. Well, EA does it every day, so.
Good point.
All right. Well, getting back to the main question, so about Geeks Worldwide, what led you to create the website?
I really wanted to talk about video games. I had just gotten married, and the path because, oh my gosh, fast forward now, and with the kids, the path continues. But as you, for me, and I'm sure it's true for you as well, but feel free to chime in if I'm wrong. As I matured further in my life, I started really focusing on work, and then got engaged, and then got married, and then I started having kids. I saw that it was starting to happen to me, this maturity, which would lead to less game time and less time with my friends. And one of the things that I always loved about my childhood was just talking about video games with my friends. And I just lost that. It was gone. And so I thought, well, there's got to be another way I can do it. What if I just start podcasting and I build a website and I just start posting what I think? Will people find it? And at the time, I knew nothing about digital marketing and how Google works. And of course, it's way more complicated now with social, but I just thought, we'll see what happens. And it really took off. I had a couple of really close friends that did it with me at first. Probably did, 30, 40 podcasts with me. And then it was so cool because we started adding people. People would find it. I don't know how. And then they would reach out to us over email and be like, hey, can we do on the podcast? I'm like, yeah, for sure. Come on the podcast. And I met people all across the country that I totally call friends now. For the last 8 to 10 years, they still are part of GWW in one way or another. Some are very active as community leaders. Others are a little more distant, and all they do is just chat on our Discord, and they don't really publish content or anything, but we still look to them for guidance and concepts and what can we do to be better, which is a constant thing we're asking. So yeah, that's what got me going. I thought, man, I just want to talk about this stuff, and I'm going to blast it out into the void of the internet and see what comes back at me. And it turned into a really popular site.
Yeah, I can't even remember how I first heard about it. But I do remember, getting it, checking it out when I was just doing the podcast with a couple of my friends, and it's I always thought it was a really cool site. Obviously, I wrote for you guys a little bit here and there, but it's just been one of those things that really fell off as I got busier with work and had less time to devote to that sort of thing. But
yeah,
but
I hear you.
But I definitely, one of these days, I just need to go back to the site and start reading up. I hardly ever visit sites and read stuff anymore.
Oh man. Well, for me, what helps is, obviously I read our site because I kind of have to, but for absorbing other content, podcasting like you're doing here has been really valuable. Sometimes I can't really follow the YouTube, like podcasters that post on YouTube. I can't always watch their video content because that's kind of the same idea. If I'm going to sit down and do something and focus on it, I may as well play a video game if I have that kind of luxury time. But when I'm driving or when I'm doing the dishes or I'm just, doing the yard, it's nice to put on my earphones and just listen to a podcast. So that's been very helpful for me. And we have over 10 podcasts on our site. I haven't been on one in a long time personally, but I podcast for my other company that I run, and it's actually pretty cool. We just started that today. Well, we started it several months ago, but we just launched it today with a back catalog of about 13 episodes. So, I still love to podcast and get involved, but actually most of my time now is doing technology reviews, and I've been doing this. I think I did like 50 laptop reviews in 2018 and like 35 in 19. Wow. And because I started my other company last year, so I had to take a step back, but now I'm on pace to do more than 50 this year. And I'm not even joking. I have 3 laptops next to me stacked up that I have to review, and I actually posted another review this morning on YouTube. So I've been scratching the itch with that, even though I'm not doing a lot of game writing or anything anymore. I just, I found my thing, and I'm still putting it out there through GWW, and it fits with our community requirements and what our community wants.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, we'll kind of get back to some of these other questions I had, but one of the questions that I have a little further down that I think kind of goes along with what you were just talking about is what it is that you're actually doing when you're not doing stuff for GWW.
Oh my gosh.
So what I mean as far as work goes is what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. I was gonna say okay. So what I do, I spent most of my career in enterprise sales, and my background is actually computer science, so it's kind of weird. But I did the computer science route, got a job in technology out of college, and then I went back, got my MBA, and then at the same time, I moved into sales because I wanted to be paid in proportion to how hard I worked. And I felt like sales was the best way to do it. I have a sort of a natural talent for talking and communicating, and I just have a natural interest in people when I get to talk to them. So it worked really well. I had a great launch in my sales career, and so I did that. I've been doing that for a long time now. And after my last company that I worked for as just an employee, after we went public, or we got acquired and went to a publicly traded company, I should say, it was time for me to do something different. So I spent about a year and a half planning, coming up with my next thing, which is called Conduit Construct. I'm a business consultant, but I primarily focus on sales. We also offer digital marketing. It's not one of our core services. It's something that we do for select clients that understand what we're trying to accomplish and it fits within their objectives. So it's got to be the right kind of client. But otherwise, sales consulting primarily. So we're based here in Portland, and that the podcast is a complement to that service. It's something else that we do is a podcast production. I do it with my friend Bray Hunziger. He's a freaking amazing video producer and podcast producer. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now, man. I try to keep it in Portland as much as I can. We do have clients elsewhere, but it's a lot of work to travel, especially now with everyone having travel restrictions. But yeah, it's a blast. That's kind of what I do, man. I just help people sell.
All right, well, that's cool. Yeah, for some reason, maybe I was just mixing you up with one of the other guys. Did you do teaching at some point, or am I just...
No, you're right. I've been teaching sales at the University of Portland since 2013. Yeah, I don't mention that very much because it's just a few hours a week. I kind of forget about it with all the other stuff that I do. But it is a major part of kind of who I am because I'm a big believer in sales as a discipline. Yet most people that are in sales, they don't have those foundational principles in their back pocket. So they struggle and they give salespeople a bad name. I'm trying to fix that. So we have 4 classes offered here at the University of Portland. They're all on-campus classes, although eventually they will be digital. And I'm just kind of working on that right now. But yeah, my goal is in 10 years, we're going to have a sales degree. That's what I'm gunning for.
Well, hey, that sounds good to me. All right, so getting back to Geeks Worldwide, what is it that you would say... Well, actually, I guess backing up a little further than that. So, you talked about why you created the website. I know that originally you had it as Geeks With Wives. What was it that made you change it to Geeks Worldwide?
Yeah, good question. It didn't take too long, but the way that our community was constructed, we were never closed-minded, right? We never said, well, Geeks With Wives. Well, here's a woman with a husband. She can't come in. That was never a rule. Or here's a young man without a wife. He can't come in. We were always embracing other people. The reason we were Geeks With Wives when we started is that it was actually pretty funny. I'd mentioned that I had a couple of close friends that started it with me, and the 3 of us were at one of their houses for a barbecue, and we're trying to come. I just pitched the idea, right? And 20 minutes later, they're like, okay, well, we need a name. And my wife is listening. She says, how about Geeks With Wives? She was totally joking, like, you're a bunch of geeks, we're the wives, Geeks With Wives. And that's what stuck. I was like, hey, we're doing this. This is an awesome name. And sure enough, it was. People loved it. But the way our community grew, we were no longer able to identify with that. There were fewer Geeks With Wives than there were just everybody else. So we wanted to have a more inclusive name. And we had one of our core guys move to the Netherlands. And we're like, oh, well, I guess we're a global company now. So how about Geeks Worldwide? And it stuck. So that's who we are now.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think Geeks With Wives were one of the things that what attracted me to it, because, I was, around the time I heard of you guys, I was just about to celebrate my 5th anniversary with my wife, and so, I definitely would say that was one of the things that drew me in initially, was just, finding that commonality. But yeah, I think that Geeks Worldwide is a good name that makes a lot of sense given how everything has changed compared to when you guys started.
For sure. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. We got a lot of positive feedback from the very beginning. I don't think we lost anyone really with the transition, because it was a complete transition, not just the name, but the domain. We completely dropped the domain and moved to this new one, the gww.com. All of our podcast feeds we had issues between reconciling the current name with the old name, but we didn't want to lose those podcasts. I think it was a bit confusing, but we didn't lose a lot of people, and as a result, we didn't get a lot of feedback. So it's good to hear from someone who was there before that it's good. That was a good change. So thank you.
So what would you say has kept it going for so many years? I mean, you said you're just celebrating 10 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, this June will be 10 years. What's keeping us going is the community. We've always been community first. We've always wanted to have people be a part of it. We want to give people a voice. We have a lot of writers, and we have our Discord channel is just, our server, rather. Excuse me. Our channel is, I just did it again. Our Discord server is quite popular. We have several hundred people in there, and it's active. Not everyone is active, of course. It's 80-20 rule, but those who are active are very collaborative. And you'll see pockets of conversation just sort of kick off about unrelated stuff to the site, which is really cool. And we've always just wanted to embrace that community. And it's that community that keeps us going. They write content, they produce videos, they do podcasts. We're so diverse, we're so freaking diverse between the editorials, the breaking news, the many podcasts. I think we have 13 or 15 podcasts, and most of them are fairly active. They post weekly, plus the Discord community and the Twitch streaming. Shout out to my boy Hank, and then the YouTube videos, and I'm doing technology stuff. We're so diverse, yet all super geeky, that I think we've just found great people. And we want more, right? We want more and more people to be a part of what we're doing. So feel free to find us on the Discord channel and jump in. I said it again, the Discord server, and jump in. But there are channels in Discord servers, just so people know I'm not nuts. I'm just a little off, not completely off. But anyhow, I think that's what keeps us going. And then certainly we have leaders at the top they work really hard. It's really incredible. Guys like Casey and Thomas and Danny, they work so hard. Like, Danny keeps our site up. Like, that's a job, and he does it. He just does it for just volunteers. It's like, I want the site to be good, so it's going to be good. And Casey's got his hand in every cookie jar. It's unreal. And Thomas is leading our efforts in news. And there's a lot of other people I can mention too. It's really incredible stuff. It's really fun to see people come together over an idea that we all share, instead of being, like employees fulfilling a job description to try to make the people at the top super wealthy. That's not what's happening here. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and of course, if it was, making the people at the top super wealthy, then you'd be super wealthy, right?
That'd be nice, right? Instead of working 3 jobs like we just talked about. Yeah.
So, moving on specifically towards you personally, as, that is part of the focus of this podcast, or this series, I guess you could say. When is it that you got your start in gaming, and what platform and with what game?
Oh man, I don't remember. I know I played the NES as a little kid. I even had one of those Tiger handhelds. Do you remember those?
Yeah, they're re-releasing some of them this year.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope they re-release the Star Trek one. I still have it. What I didn't know is that those games never ended. I put so many hours in that Star Trek game. Oh man. So yeah, I remember playing the NES a lot, especially Zelda. I'm a huge Zelda fan. It's if God were to destroy all video game series, but I could pick one for him to keep, it would be Zelda. I just love Zelda. So yeah, Zelda 1 and 2 on the NES. Oh my god, I put so many hours into those games. I don't know which game it was that really captured me the first time. I played some games that I would never play again or think positively of, like Milan's Secret Castle, and oh gosh, there's so many classic NES games, classic for a bad reason, Burger Time, and oh my gosh, those games. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to make it a good story and say, oh yeah, man, Zelda 1.
Now, you're how old again?
I'm 36.
36. So, how do you respond to people who tell you that you're too old to be gaming?
That's funny. That's really funny, actually, because so before I started my other company, Conduit, and I was completely self-employed, right? So before that happened, several years before, I had a boss who I just love. He's one of the greatest guys. We're still very close. But he looked at me and he's like, look, man, I know you're a nerd and I know you love this stuff, but you cannot have Geeks With Wives on your LinkedIn profile. You got to take it down. It's like, what? He's like, yeah, man, look, you're selling professional SaaS software to CEOs. You can't put that on there. You got to really think about it, And he was not violating any HR rules or anything. He was very cool about it. It's like, yeah, you know what? Let me give that a shot. I didn't put Geeks World Wide up on LinkedIn until I think maybe 4 months ago. Yeah, and so the thing is that if anyone were to ask me, what do you do as a hobby? I used to just focus on my other hobbies, like playing basketball, which I used to do a lot. Now that I'm much older and I've got all these injuries, I can't. I literally should not play basketball ever again. But I still exercise, but it's more like just exercising by myself, so who cares? It's not interesting. And it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise because I hurt less, but also when people ask, what are your hobbies? I've got nothing else to go to. Literally what I do is I love to get my hands on consumer tech and review it. And I love to find new ways to improve GWW. And my goodness, you get me a cup of tea at night, and let me play some video games, and I'm a happy guy. And the thing is, I get about a half hour to 45 minutes a day on average, and I don't play every day, so, aggregated across the course of a week, that's my gaming time. I don't get a lot of it, so when I have it, I'm proud to do it. So things have really changed for me.
Yeah, I can't imagine having that little. I mean, most days I would say I probably get like maybe 2-3 hours after the kids are in bed, but man, 30 to 45 minutes, that's gotta be rough.
Some of it is by choice, though. I've also really been trying to be better at reading. So I have a Kindle. I've had it for a few years now, and I'll go through fits and starts, but when I'm really into it, I can read like, I don't know, a half hour to an hour a night before I fall asleep. Because, you get tired and stuff at night reading. I don't know about you, man, but
yeah.
We get the kids to bed, and it's like, all right, clean the house. Got to do that every night. Prepare for the next day. Make sure we have meals and everything ready for the kids. And then, go to bed, right? Or squeeze in a workout if you didn't get it done yet for the day. But my wife and I are pretty good about both getting our workouts in before 5 p.m. But anyhow, that's part of it's by choice. Like I actually moved my office to my bedroom to limit my gaming time and to be more present with my wife. So when we get the kids to bed and then we clean up the house, as I mentioned, and we get back to the bedroom, it's like, all right, look, we're going to talk, and then we're going to probably read, and then that's it. And if I were to jump on the computer that's right there in the bedroom and start gaming, then of course she wouldn't be able to sleep, and then I'd have my back to her. So it was a nice way to sort of gamify that challenge of, am I spending too much time gaming and not enough time with the fam? So that's been really good for us. And I'm actually in my old office now to do this podcast, which is slowly transforming into my video production studio for just when I do the consumer tech. For our other podcast, we have a studio in the city of Portland. But yeah, it's slowly transforming into a really cool other purpose, which is exciting.
All right. Now, what would you say that your top 5 games are for all time?
Oh, man, that's easy. All right, you ready? All right. Breath of the Wild. All time it, right there. Number 1. I think that is possibly the best game ever made. All right, so you got your Breath of the Wild, Diablo. Then I'm going to go with Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. Right? Unbelievable. I love that game. I spent so many hours playing as a kid. It's one of my top 5 for sure. Then I'm going to go with A Link to the Past. So got another Zelda game in there. And then rounding it out, number 5. This might come as a shocker. A Link Between Worlds.
Okay. I still haven't played that.
Oh, my friend.
Well, I haven't finished A Link to the Past, so before I play A Link Between Worlds, I want to finish A Link.
Our mutual friend Kenny did it the opposite direction, and he was still very satisfied. So you may not have to.
Well, I mean, I've already started A Link to the Past, and I got to see where I stopped sometime after you enter the Dark World, and I haven't gotten back to it.
It can be a little confusing once you hit the Dark World, and you got to figure out at the top like how to get across the bridge and stuff. That's a spot where I have been stuck many times in my life. But if you can get past it, find where you are. Even if you're stuck, just Google it. It's worth it. Overcome that and move on. Get through the game. It's so stinking good. What are you playing it on, by the way?
SNES Classic.
Nice. Yeah. How do you like those consoles?
Well, I mean, the SNES Classic is the only one I have of the two, and I like it a lot. I mean, I have it on the SNES as well, but the SNES I got was like a used one, and it didn't come with an official first-party controller, so it's a little
brutal.
I mean, it works okay. I mean, it's not quite as good as the real thing. And since I was able to get the Classic, I mean, it plays really well. I can plug it into my monitor, and I can play while I listen to a podcast or whatever.
Yeah, I really like it. It's funny. I've been you were talking about that, and all of a sudden my mind wandered to eBay. I didn't open eBay in my phone or anything, but just in my mind, I was like, eBay. I gotta go find Link to the Past on SNES because I've been collecting all the Zelda games in physical condition, physical carts, and that's, I think, the only one I don't have. Yeah, that's the only game I don't have of the Zelda series. So I gotta find it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think I have actually. Well, I don't have the Oracle games on Game Boy Color. I don't have physical versions of those. And then I don't have Link Between Worlds. And then I don't have the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild. And I don't have which one is it? No, that might be it. I can't remember.
You can overcome it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens one of these days.
I hear you.
What would you say is the most underrated game you've played?
Oh, man. Okay. Oh, I wish you'd give me these questions in advance, but I respect that you didn't because I never give people questions in advance. Okay, the most underrated game. Oh my gosh. I know I have a good answer if I really spend the time to think about it, but the one game that jumps out at me right now is Shadows of the Damned. Did you ever play that on PS3?
No.
Okay, so imagine a third-person shooter. You know what? This will help you. It's made by the guy Suda51.
Oh, okay.
That guy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, right? Uh-huh. So it's a third-person shooter, and it takes place sort of in modern times, but you've got this gun, this pistol, that talks to you, right? It has its own personality, and it's profane, which is not usually my style, but it's pretty funny. And yeah, you go through the underworld trying to find your kidnapped girlfriend. It's got a very, Double Dragon storyline type feel to it. But there's actually a really cool gameplay element in that I'm going to butcher this because it's been so many years since I played it, but there's like a dark world and not a dark world, light world, but the underground is a dark world. And then you have this sort of like barrier of light that you can be in and not get damaged. But if you go out of the light, then you do. And so you have to be very considerate, tactical with how you manage the light and the dark. It's very neat. So yeah, third-person shooter, funny banter, good characters, goofy Suda51 style. I'm sure it didn't sell very well, but if you can find this game on PS3, get it. It's so fun.
Sounds interesting. I wonder if maybe they might have like ported it to PC or anything.
They never did. I looked.
Maybe it'll come
I had
to Switch.
given my copy to a friend to borrow, and I didn't get it back. So I was looking for it on PC.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll port it to Switch. I think there's a good possibility we'll get the first two No More Heroes games. So.
What makes you say that?
Well, just because, there was a point when Game Explain was interviewing Suda51, and they were asking him about bringing over the first two since the third one is coming this year. And, he basically said that he would, talk to people about it, see what they could do. I think it would probably happen if he can get, talk with Ubisoft, because I'm pretty sure they're the ones who published those games. Maybe we could get those. So
that'd be great.
Who knows?
Anytime you can get your hands on a game like we were talking about earlier that you really want to play. Before it gets archaic like a Doom, you should try to do it. So hopefully these guys make it happen.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. All right. So, what is a game series or just a game in general that was completely off your radar but ended up being something you loved?
Okay. That's another good question. Jeez, you're just a killer at these good questions. I know I have an answer for you. So many times I've tried to get into game series I didn't like. I don't know if it's a problem, but I guess I just embrace it now. I've tried to get into like a Total War series because they look like something I would enjoy, but I can't. They're just too slow. And then I try to get into Civ, but I can't. It's just too boring. I can't remember the last time I played a game that really surprised me. I think Days Gone actually did surprise me. We talked about that earlier. I didn't think I would love it, And I actually told a good friend of mine when the game had come out, it's like, hey man, you getting Days Gone? He's like, I don't think so. It's like, yeah, it just has PS Plus free game of the month written all over it. And that just kept ringing in the back of my mind anytime I see the game go on sale. But I picked it up for $20, and I really like it. Yeah, I don't think I have a good answer. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Just as a side note.
I have an answer.
Oh, go ahead.
I got an answer for you. Okay, Steam World Dig.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. So my so my friend David Brevik, right? So Brevik made a game called I think it's called It Lurks Beneath, and it's really, really fun. Back when it was in beta, he let me get access to it and for feedback and that type of thing. And I was like, man, this game's really cool. And he had mentioned that he was inspired a little bit by Steam World Dig. So I went out and got Steam World Dig so I could have a better perspective of what motivated him. And I fell in love with that game, and I got it on Switch. And I'm pretty sure I actually only played the second one, so Steam World Dig 2. But I played the crap out of that game and finished it. So there you go. That is a surprise title for me.
Yeah, SteamWorld Dig, both games are really great. The first one is a lot shorter, and the area that you dig is randomly generated, but then all the rooms are exactly the same for every playthrough. But that one is actually like my favorite indie game of all time, because I feel like it's just such a great experience from beginning to end. It's not very long. I think my shortest playthrough did it about 7 hours, and that was my most recent one. It's kind of like my the game I go back to whenever I just kind of need to cleanse my palate.
Oh, cool. Man, I'm not good at replaying games. I'm impressed that you can do that.
I mean, it's like in general, I wouldn't do that, but it was more just like I got it originally on 3DS because that was the platform it first came out on. And then I ended up getting really into it on PC and played through it there. And then when it came to Switch, I was just like, I have to get it on Switch. And I hadn't played SteamWorld Heist, which was the second game, well, technically the third game that they made in the SteamWorld series. But it was the second, newer one. And that one came out at the same time SteamWorld Dig came out on Switch. And so I ended up just getting both of those and playing through those. And recently I actually replayed both SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2 because my wife got me 2 as a cartridge for Christmas. So.
Now, is Heist a similar type of game, or is it a different
It's
genre,
a turn-based strategy.
Got it.
It's a good game, but it's not a Metroidvania. So it's...
Okay.
I personally, I enjoyed it, but it's not one that I would go back to. Whereas with Dig, it's short enough and everything, and just such a great game, plus, Metroidvania, that I felt like it was worth going back to.
Yeah, man, I love those short games, let me tell you. 10 hours, perfect.
Yeah. Sometimes that's just right, So.
Yeah, agreed.
And of course, now that you're only playing 30 to 45 minutes a day, that's even more so.
You understand my pain, man.
So, speaking of the fact that you only get a little bit of game time, let's get into some of the stuff more on a personal level. So, obviously, you've been married for a while. How long have you been married?
10 years.
10 years. Really? I thought you'd been married longer than that.
No. So we started Geeks World Wide when it was Geeks With Wives just a few months after we got married. Let me think here. Yeah, but no, it's been almost 10 and a half years that we've been married.
Wow. So actually, it sounds like you and I have been married about the same amount of time. So you got married in 2009?
I did.
When in 2009?
September 20th.
Wow. I actually been married longer than you have.
I didn't. By how long?
By 4 months. But... It's just, it's funny. I guess I probably just assumed you'd been married longer because the fact that, for one, you started having kids before we did, and then also because you're older. And so I just kind of my brain automatically defaults to you being married longer, even though now I found out you actually been married a little bit shorter than I have.
I'll tell you, man, I wish I'd been married longer. I really do. I wish that we'd gotten married earlier. I wish I met her earlier. We got married earlier. We started having kids earlier. I know that it's kind of, I don't know, it's a weird thing for people to hear, but it's something I really think. I married the best person I've ever met, and I feel like my life was just sort of a waste before I met her. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sentimental and weird sometimes.
No, I understand completely. I mean, I was a little bit younger when I got married than you were, since, I'm younger than you anyway. But yeah, it's marriage is great. So
heck yeah.
But as you mentioned, you as far as becoming a dad, how long have you been a dad?
6 years.
6 years, okay.
Yep, 6 years in a week.
And so now you have 3 kids, and what's the makeup of your kids?
A 6-year-old girl, a 3-year-old girl, and an 11-month-old boy.
Wow, so he's almost a year old. That's
yeah.
What would you say your experience has been like as a dad?
It's a challenge every day, but it's also very rewarding. As you know, it's almost a miracle when the kids are born. That experience is definitely miraculous. And I remember the first time when our first was born. My wife is a nurse, and she's actually a labor and delivery nurse, so she was very good at prepping me for what was going to happen. And she was really encouraging of me. She really wanted me to actually pull the baby out. And I was like, all right, no way, not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. And then as it was happening, the doctor, she looked at me, she's like, or the midwife, she's like, you sure? I mean, this is your chance. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, get out of the way. And I pulled her out. I was just so into it. And it was a 27-hour labor. It was really brutal, but my wife and I just teamed up. I mean, she did most of the work. I was just coaching her, but we teamed up to get it done. And she had her mom in the room and a bunch of other people that she wanted to kind of coach her and be her doula. And towards the end, she's just like, I just want you. And so we teamed up and we got it done. That experience was almost like addicting. It was weird. I was so hyped up when the baby was screaming. My wife was holding her, and I said, we gotta do this again. We just have to do this again. It was like I just one of the best ride of my life. It was so weird. But from that moment on, I'm a dad, and I've got to figure out how do I show a level of maturity to where my kids are never going to hate me, and no one else is going to hate them. Right? It's kind of the goal. Is they've got to be positive members of society, and they've got to be respected, and they've got to be respectable. So I didn't have the tools to do that. I just didn't. My parents are amazing, but they didn't teach me they didn't explicitly teach me how to be a parent. So it's been hard. I'm definitely nowhere close to ready to say that I'm a great dad or a super good dad, but I definitely try my hardest. So there's challenges, but there's also a ton of reward. You see your kids. It's kind of like the whole delivery thing. It can be painful at times, but then you see them do something that is so mature or so appropriate. It just warms you up. One of my kids, she was playing at school, and my wife was there as a volunteer for the afternoon, and one of her friends was just kind of pouting and struggling. And so my daughter, who's a bit of a sassy pants, right? This sassy pants daughter walks up to her and says, hey, look, I really want you to play with me. So I'm going to be over here, and when you're ready, come play. And if you're not ready, I understand. Like, seriously, almost word for word, that's what she said. And when my wife told me, we were both like, really? That's unreal. That's so mature. It's so responsible. That's so great. It takes all the fear of their future away. And for that little moment, you're like, okay, yeah, they're going to be awesome. And I don't know, I guess that's every day for me. There's a little bit of pain, there's a little bit of amazing feeling that happens too.
So what would you say has been the greatest challenge when it comes to being a dad?
Well, I'm pretty good at not losing my temper, but there are times where I don't know what to do other than be upset, and that's not cool. So yeah, there's definitely times where I've lost my cool, and I hate that. It drives me nuts when that happens. But that would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I definitely understand that very well. what would you say has been the most surprising thing you've learned as a dad?
Oh, that I can do it. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely it, man. The fact that there's those moments where, like, you have to be a dad, like the dad moments that happen, and they're almost scripted.
Yeah.
But the times where it's unexpected and you just have to be there and do the right thing at the right time without a lot of preparation, to pull that off, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing that I've come to realize more and more over the years of being a dad is just like how much the way that my dad was impacted me. And not everyone has a positive father figure, or, they don't always see the positive when they're growing up. But, like, I had a great dad, and I didn't realize how much he impacted me and how much he impacted the way that I do things until I started seeing myself doing some of the things that he did, or, things like that, and just kind of looking back at the positive influence he was. And I mean, just how it's affected me, both in terms of how I've raised my kids, and even just how I've loved my wife and everything. And I don't know. I mean, it's just, I would say that, yeah, I totally agree on that. It's like, you don't really know that you can do it until it actually happens, and especially if you had a positive influence, that can really make a difference. And then, those who have a negative influence potentially can learn what not to do.
Yeah. I hear you. It's sometimes hard to translate all of that, but that was well said.
So, now that you have both girls and a boy, how would you compare raising the girls versus raising the boy?
I don't know if I have enough data yet because he's still so little. I would say at the 1 year and under stage, which is full of difficult times, changing diapers and feeding them and holding them all the time. They have been quite different. In fact, all three of my kids have been quite different in that 1 year and under stage. But generally, the way that my son is different is that he's very strong. And he has these giant mitts. His hands are just huge.
Yeah.
And I'm not a super big guy. I'm just under 6 foot, but I've got some height in my family. So I'm hoping, and so is my wife. My wife's 5'9", which is pretty tall for a woman, and she's got a ton of height in her family too. So we're hoping that he'll exceed 6 feet, and if his hands are any indication, this boy will. But his strength is insane. Ever since he was very, very little, just a couple of months old, he would squeeze you so hard that it hurts. I mean, literally, like my wife, she'll get done feeding him sometimes, and he takes his hands and he squeezes her neck and her collarbone, and you look at her, and she looks like she just ran through a blackberry bush. This kid's a beast.
Yeah.
And the way he uses his strength actually does impact his day-to-day, his ability to... This guy, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see this video that I posted. This guy can dangle and swing from bars. Like, he climbs up onto... We have locks, so he can't actually pull them down, but like the oven or the dishwasher, and the bars that are on there, and he hangs from them and he swings on them and he starts to climb up, and he's just an animal. I'm super excited for him to grow up and get into some sports or whatever he chooses to do, but I would not be surprised if he gets into some athletics.
Yeah. So I guess then maybe a better question would be, what would you say has been your experience specifically with raising girls? Like, I guess more so, how would you say it's, I don't know, I'm not really sure how to phrase that, but let's just go with what would you say your experience has been more in terms of raising girls?
Well, my girls are so much older than my sons. They're 6 and 3 that I just have way more data. And those phases, they change so much every 6 months. Even up until 3 or 4, they change a lot. Their vocabulary and their physicality and their sense of humor. It's been different, but all my kids are quite different. So my oldest, she's very crafty and she can just, I mean, the stuff that she can make is really impressive. She gets that from my wife. Whereas my middle kid is just a wild child, you know, and it's really hard to get her off the screens. So she finds an iPad. She never met an iPad she didn't like, you know, so that's kind of tough to get her off of those. But once you do, she can really focus, and she can do I guess you call it a boring activity for a long time. Whereas my oldest, she'll do stuff and she's very creative, but I mean, she's going to get it done, and then she's super efficient, and then she's going to move on to, okay, what's the next thing? Like, she constantly has to be entertained. And I don't know if my son will be that way yet. So, yeah, I'm not sure I have enough info yet to be able to answer your question fully, but maybe in a year.
So, even though your experience is somewhat limited, as you pointed out, what are some tips you'd give to other dads of daughters, considering the fact that you have more experience with girls?
Well, I guess take it or leave it. But what I've been doing with my girls, particularly my eldest one, because she's, you know, so much older than the middle child, but 6 years. In the 6 years that I've been raising her, I'm very protective. I'm kind of a helicopter parent, honestly, but I do try to give her room to play and to be herself. And if she's into something, even if it's not something that I want to do at that time or ever, I try to do it with her, or at least show her that I'm interested in what she's doing, because I don't want to create a dead end, right? I don't want to create a wall or an obstacle around something that she wants to do. It's not detrimental to her. So I try to embrace it. And so sometimes it means I've got to watch or help her with her LOL dolls, which is really boring. Or there's certain books that she wants me to read to her, and they're Barbie, and they're not interesting to me. But, you know, you roll up your sleeves and you do it. You do it for the sake of your child. And I think the root of that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. My education's computer science before it was business, and my career was technology before it was business and sales. And I think I just sort of shut off the sales side of me as a young man when I was going to college, because first of all, there was no avenue for me other than just a general business degree, which I thought of as worthless. But also, I didn't see a path to be successful. So, well, you know, at the time, the early 2000s, engineers were all the rage. So I said, all right, well, I'll do something in engineering, such as computer science, which fell into our engineering school at the University of Portland. So I feel like there are many times, and it actually complements the GWW stuff, there are many times where the real strength that someone has, you know, the attributes of their character, they're shut down by whether it's society or external expectations, the expectations of their parents or their spouse or their friends, to try to fulfill a role or do a thing that they're supposed to do. So I don't want that to happen to any of my kids. And so with my girls, where like I said, I have more experience, I really try to let them be themselves, as long as they're not hurting themselves or anyone else. So, and sometimes I have to really show them, like, not only is it cool that you do that, I'm going to do it with you. And that makes it even cooler for them. So I guess that's my advice, is try to embrace those things and let them focus on their strengths.
All right, well, that seems like some pretty good advice. So, that's all I have for questions. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, just thank you. We don't get to connect very often. So when I saw your DM come up a few weeks ago to do this, I'm pretty sure immediately I was like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. Because it's just been forever, and I know we're not recalling exactly how we even found each other many years ago, but the fact that it's been many years, and we're still finding an opportunity to do this with all the challenges and time sucks that exist in life, is a compliment to you as a human being. So thank you for being who you are, and thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I definitely always enjoy a chance we get to talk. You know, it's too bad we weren't able to do the predictions thing together, but the Nintendo Direct still hasn't happened yet, so we'll we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, no sweat. We'll get there.
Joe, where can people find you?
I'd love it if you want to find me at Geeks World Wide, but it'd be even better if you just found us at the community. So you can either go to our Discord server, which is discord.gg/thegww. Rather, I take that back. It's discord.gg/gww. Or go to the website, thegww.com. We're on Twitter and Facebook and all those happy places. And if you do really want to find me, you can just shoot me an email at joe@thegww.com, and I'll do my best to get back to you.
Sounds good. Well, until next time, this has been The Frozen Gamer, and I'll talk to you later.